Welcome to Basic Brewing Video. I'm James Spencer.
I'm Steve Wilkes.
We don't have a lot of work to do today on this episode because our friend Matt Giovanisci from brewcabin.com and the Brew Cabin YouTube channel has made this beer for us. It's a cold IPA, and it is a recipe that he and I formulated together on Basic Brewing Radio as part of our recipe development series. So, cold IPA.
Yeah, clarify.
I don't know.
It's been in the fridge for a while?
I don't exactly know what a cold IPA is. We talked about it on the show. It's sort of maybe a cousin to brut IPA. I don't know. The thing is, our job here today is just to taste the beer. So to find out how the beer was made, let's go to Matt Giovanisci at his house, his Brew Cabin house in Colorado, and see how this beer was made.
Hey guys, it's Matt from brewcabin.com. And my wedding is coming up this month, so I thought it'd be a great idea to brew all of the beer for my wedding. And one of those ideas was to create a cold IPA called Cold Feet. I don't know, but James and I on Basic Brewing Radio actually developed this recipe, and I had a chance to brew it. So here's the recipe and the process. I started with 8.5 gallons of RO water and added 6 milliliters of lactic acid. Once the water was heated to strike temp, I added 11 pounds or 5 kilograms of Pilsner malt and 5 pounds or 2.25 kilograms of flaked rice. I mashed at 145 degrees Fahrenheit or 63 degrees Celsius for 90 minutes. At the start of the boil, I added 1/4 of an ounce or 7 grams of Citra at 90 minutes or first wort hopping. After the boil was over, I added 6 ounces or 170 grams of Citra and let it steep for 30 minutes while I prepared the dip hops. I removed 1 quart or 1 liter of wort after the boil and added it to my sanitized fermenter. Then I added 3 ounces or 85 grams of Lupamax Citra pellets for a process called dip hopping. Then I transferred the wort to the fermenter and I pitched a packet of Imperial Yeast Huga L25 and let it ferment at 68 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees Celsius for 10 days before packaging. So, you have the beers. Let me know what you think. Cheers.
Well, thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
As always.
As always.
Thanks for brewing the beer. Thanks for coming on the audio podcast to talk about the beer. Why don't you open it up? It's all fancy. Matt's got his own.
I love the labeling on this.
Yeah, that's branding. It says Cold IPA.
Cold IPA.
Written in penmanship that is near to my heart because it's about like mine. But I've actually let this beer warm up a little bit because the other night I had one straight out of the beer fridge, which is pretty cold. Mm-hmm. And I did not get the full flavor experience. So I wanted us, and yeah, go ahead because it's... there's no cookie in there. So cheers.
Cheers.
It's a beautiful beer. Despite the enzymes, it's not crystal clear, but there's a lot of hops in there, though.
It's really pretty. Nice, Pilsnery.
Yes, it does. It does look Pilsnery, but it'll fool you.
No, it sure will.
It smells good. Now, these are all Citra hops.
I was going to say, that is a Citra explosion. Yeah, that's got that big Citra nose. I've got a salve for that.
That's my nickname in high school.
But cleared out.
That's right. That's really good.
That's good beer.
Now, when I drank it cold right out of the beer fridge, it reminded me a lot of a brut IPA because it's very crisp, very clean. You can tell that it's a lager, even though it used Imperial's L25 Hyuge. Even though it was fermented at ale temperature, it still tastes like a lager. It's based on a lager, to me at least.
Yeah, it's very lagery or pilsnery, except it's got that big Citra splash. Mm-hmm.
There's a nice solid base bitterness, but those Citra hops The other night when I first tasted it and kind of let it warm up, I was getting, along with the citrusy, I was getting melon as well, and I couldn't remember which hop had been used in the beer, so I was like, what hop is that? Because I was getting, like I say, primarily citrus and a melon component as well. I don't know if you get that as the melon. Not a cantaloupe, but more like a honeydew.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I could be talked into it. The bittering level is such that it kind of takes over toward the end for me. And I would say that I don't find this beer, I'm not sure, of course, your palate is very different than mine, meaning just how you perceive Crispin whatever is.
Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover is different than the way I perceive Crispin Glover. I think this beer has a nice little residual sweetness and a nice little roundness to it. So I'm not saying it's not crisp, but it's not sliced with an X-Acto knife crisp. It's got a little roundness to it.
Well, don't we all?
So do we all. Yeah.
But I think that and we might after the show, if I were to serve you one straight out of the beer fridge, I think that you might have a different opinion, because in letting this beer warm up, I wanted to taste more, make it more multi-dimensional.
Yeah.
Which I think that's done that.
It has. I mean, well, it is multi-dimensional. It's not a one-note beer by any means. Wow, it's a great beer. Cold IPA, but very well attenued. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about a really well-made beer, which Matt's a really good brewer, and this is a really good beer.
Well, you can tell that there are no crystal malts in here.
That's right. Yes,
it's just base malt and rice, and so it's super clean in that way.
Well, it really is.
It's a blank palette essentially for the hops to play on, and they are displayed really nicely in this beer. And yeah, I'm super impressed with Matt. If you haven't seen the Brew Cabin channel, his system is incredible.
No kidding.
But you can have the best system in the world, and if you're a bad brewer,
you're still a bad brewer.
You're not gonna. So this is a testament to Matt's talent as a brewer, that this is as good as it is. Because someone with less knowledge or less experience would not necessarily brew a beer this good from good equipment.
I agree, and a beer like this is rather naked, and there's nowhere to hide in this beer. And Matt pulled it off brilliantly. I like it very much. Is that our only can?
No.
Oh, well, there you go. Let's move it along.
We got one more show to do today, and we might need a palate cleanser after that. All right, everybody. Thanks again to Matt Giovanisci from Brew Cabin for working with me on formulating the beer. He did most of the work. And then of brewing the beer and sending us the beer. Super delicious.
Yeah, it really is.
So
thanks, Matt.
It's my turn to send something to him. So I apologize in advance. All right, everybody.
All right.
Cheers. Happy brewing.
Happy brewing.
Come and visit us online at basicbrewing.com. You can find archive lists of our audio and video podcasts on homebrewing. You can also find our DVDs and our brewer's logbook, where you can track and log up to 50 batches of beer.
Thank goodness we're not outside today. Jeez,
well, I put these jeans on to come over here. I didn't have any. I'm just kind of out of clean clothes. I went, oh, okay, bought some jeans. I went, oh. If we're going back to that pond again, I'm going to be really in a bad way.
No pond.
No pond.